Barakatah Yahweh, Barakatah Yahushai, Ba'ashem Rekah Kodash, Barakatah. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahushai. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that rule well, in peace and salutations to Yakim out there pushing this word and truth. This is the Brother Raya with another video, and as we'll come to see, with each passing day, those 10 horns on the beast that the whore sitteth on are starting to hate that whore more and more. And those 10 horns, as we know, are the EU, while the beast itself is NATO, and that whore is American Mystery Babylon. And I'm going to get into an article on ZeroHedge.com titled, "In Surprise Twist, Europe Now Pushing Trump Administration to Ease Russian Sanctions." Something strange happened in the days immediately preceding Trump's airstrikes on Syria. First Germany, then Italy refused to join the US-led effort, which ultimately also included the UK and France. And Germany and Italy are some of those 10 horns that are upon the beast. And a major reason they refused to join the U.S. in these strikes is because primarily Italy, was a part of those airstrikes against Libya during that civil war back in, I believe, around 2011 that led to Libya being collapsed. And a lot of those Libyan refugees went into Europe through Italy. And then you also had, of course, the Syrian civil war, which led to a further collapse, which had a lot of Syrian refugees going into Europe, which is, they're having a big problem with that, especially Germany, where they have a lot of migrants there that are living there and living off welfare and such. And there's been an increase in crime because a lot of those migrants don't work. So it's a lot of men in that country that are just not working, that when you get bored, when a man gets bored, he gets into trouble and gets into crime and such. I'll show a quick example. 2011 military intervention in Libya. I'm going to jump down to forces committed. Belgium, Bulgaria, Canada, Denmark, France, Greece, Italy. As you can see, Italy committed quite a bit to that effort in the Libyan civil war. Jordan, NATO, Netherlands, Norway, Qatar, Romania, Spain, Sweden, Turkey, UAE, United States, United Kingdom, and such. So those a few of those 10 horns were a part of this operation, and they're feeling the impact from it, from again that refugee crisis. So now they're weary to have another operation that they'll be involved in, because they don't know how much worse things are going to get if Syria completely collapses, which it will eventually, and that's going to eventually lead to World War III and the Battle of the Valley of Jehoshaphat. So they're very weary about it. Commenting on this curious split within the European core, we said that there are at least 2 European nations who remember that when it gets cold in winter, there is one country they call to provide the natural gas they need to heating, Russia. And again, besides dealing from blowback from the U.S.'s military adventurism, a lot of countries of the EU do business with Russia. As it just said, they rely on gas for heating that comes from Russia. We got a little map here. And with America having a lot of problems with the Russians right now, they're causing, with putting on those sanctions on Russia, that's causing a lot of these European nations to feel the squeeze and not being allowed to do vital business with Russia that they need, again, for heating and other business ventures. Fast forward 2 weeks, and it now appears that most of Europe has also remembered just how critical Russia is to the well-being of the continent, because according to the FT, a Europe-wide diplomatic push is underway to persuade the Trump administration to ease U.S. sanctions targeting Russia, amid growing fears that the restrictions are so severe they threaten unleashing another economic recession across the continent, which brings me to Revelation chapter 17, verse 16. "And the 10 horns, the EU, which thou sawest upon the beast, NATO, these shall hate the whore, American Mystery Babylon, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire," when they turn against the U.S. and shoot their nuclear missiles over to the U.S. to destroy it. And the reason they're going to do this is because when Israel and America go to war in the Middle East, That's obviously going to drag in NATO because they're a major ally of the U.S. and they feel committed to the U.S. But as the war drags on and they start taking casualties, again, they're going to turn against the U.S. And we're starting to see it begin economically with, as it just said, a Europe-wide diplomatic push is underway to persuade the Trump administration to ease U.S. sanctions targeting Russia amid growing fears that the restrictions are so severe they threaten unleashing another economic recession across the continent, because a lot of the Western nations are in a bad spot right now economically. In a stark reminder that every political action has an unexpected and unusual and usually unpleasant reaction, Paris, which is in charge of coordinating the anti-sanction effort after business limits on Russian metals companies caused aluminum and nickel prices to soar, is pushing allies including Berlin, London, and Rome to make a joint representation in Washington. The Tin Horns are starting to hate that whore. As the FT adds, the French-led initiative underscores the widening concern in Europe about the consequences that sanctions could have on key EU industries from cars and aerospace. I'm going to get off to a quick side note. The EU, well, Europe in general, is not known to have many natural resources, and what they're known for making is, as it says, cars, car motors, and aerospace and technology and stuff like that. And they import a lot of the materials they need from other countries, and that goes to show that Europe is what's known as the bottomless pit in the book of Revelation. Salakia brothers having some problems with my computer. Alright, Revelation chapter 9 verse 1. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fall from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit, which is Europe, because it doesn't have natural resources. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose a smoke out of the pit, as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And this is talking about World War I, which was the first industrialized war, because you had the widespread use of chemical weapons, machine guns, I think they were known as biplanes and such. It was a very industrialized war, and that smoke that rose out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, you can imagine this from when you see in war movies or in war footage, when bombs are dropped, that smoke rises up. And a lot of this technology was made in Europe, which again shows that Europe is the bottomless pit, because all they can do is make the technology, but they have to import the resources to make it from out of other countries. And to show that this is talking about World War I, I'm going to jump down to verse 12. One woe is past, and woe means destruction, and behold, there come two woes more hereafter, Salakia. So World War I, which was the deadliest war at the time it happened, and then followed by World War II, the next deadliest war, even more deadly than World War I, and then that final woe, World War III, which will be primarily in the Battle of the Valley of Jehoshaphat, the Battle of Armageddon. And to show that a pit refers to a nation or a land, I'm going to go to 2nd Esdras chapter 5, start at verse 23. And said, O Lord that bears rule of every wood of the earth and of all the trees thereof, thou hast chosen the only one vine, the one only vine, brothers. And this is talking about the Hebrew Israelites, the so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, because in the scriptures people are referred to as trees. But here's the point, verse 24. And all the lands of the whole world thou hast chosen the one pit, a land, and of all the flowers thereof one lily. So that bottomless pit is a land, and that bottomless pit is Europe, because it doesn't have any natural resources of its own. Just a little side note. Let me see where. All right. Echoing what we said almost 2 weeks ago when commenting on the Rusal sanctions, a French official warned that the sanctions, which have crippled Russian aluminum producer Rusal, would have a direct and major impact on the provisioning of key products, and that a number of industrial plants in Europe were threatened with closure. See, they have to get, again, materials from other countries to build what they want to build because Europe doesn't have any natural resources of its own. They are not the kind which can be reopened overnight, so a solution is needed and fast, the official said. Constructive engagement with the U.S. is taking place. The push for a U.S. truce with Russia, which is taking place under the administration, which ironically has been alleged to have colluded with Putin to win the election, comes ahead of separate visits to Washington next week by the two leaders of Europe, German Chancellor Angela Merkel and French President Emmanuel Macron. They will meet President Trump as part of a broader diplomatic effort to soothe transatlantic relations already strained by tensions over planned U.S. tariffs on steel and aluminum. One reason why Europe is especially concerned is that under the provisions of the new penalties contained in the Countering America's Adversaries Through Sanctions Act, Europeans are effectively barred from doing business with targeted Russian companies and their oligarch owners because Europe is a more interconnected economic world with Russia and countries of the East such as China because they're so close together, and so it would be only natural for them to do business with those countries. But with the U.S. wanting to keep its hegemon and empire over the world, they want to keep those European nations from not doing business with their enemies, to try to bleed their enemies dry, and for those countries to still be allied with the U.S. But the U.S. is just making those that whore is just making those tin horns hater by cutting off the bread that other people make, and nobody, as it goes, it's all just business. Nobody likes to lose money, so of course they're gonna start getting pissed off and start to make little backdoor deals to try to circumvent these U.S. sanctions. This has led to a collapse in the stock and bond prices of Rusal, the world's largest aluminum producer outside of China, as the company finds itself locked out of capital markets and unable to roll its maturing debts or fund further expansion. Meanwhile, amid fears of an imminent Rusal bankruptcy and choked supply lines, aluminum prices have soared as much as 30% in the past 2 weeks, resulting in fears of an imminent surge in downstream prices as well as broader inflationary spikes. Sorry, brothers, my computer's been messing up lately. It froze up a little bit. Damn Satan. I'll just read till it unsticks. There we go. It's not just aluminum, as the FT adds. German business leaders appear to have also had enough of Trump's Slakia. I'm going to just reread it. German business leaders appear to also have had enough of Trump defining global Russian trade relations and have raised concerns with government officials with a gathering held Thursday at the Berlin offices of the German Committee on Eastern European Economic Relations, an influential lobby group. This affects the whole production chain, all the way to car producers and the aerospace industry, said. See, it's damn Satan. Now I gotta go all, oh wait, cool, it didn't stop. Alright, I'll just reread it all again so we can get a good idea of it. It's not just aluminum, as the FT adds. German business leaders appear to also have had enough of Trump defining global Russian trade relations and have raised concerns with government officials with a gathering held Thursday at the Berlin offices of the German Committee on Eastern European Economic Relations, an influential lobby group. This affects the whole production chain, all the way to car producers and the aerospace industry, said one person briefed on the concerns raised at the talks. Do you have anything else? Let me see if I want to read this. Clearly, Germany is worried that the longer Russia is forcibly excluded from supply chains, the more adverse consequences will be, as the recent plunge, the biggest since 2012, in Germany's ZEW Economic Sentiment Index showed. A big German metal industry lobby WV Metali warned this week that the